Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Torchlight. Now a lot has happened since the last time I recorded. My computer broke. I accidentally diagnosed the wrong thing. Bought a 2080 RTX graphics card that I did not need, and then realized I needed a power supply, and that was the problem that had broken, not the graphics card. So is that really going to affect how anything here looks or changes, considering this is a 10-year-old game? No, but it did affect the timing, certainly. I don't really remember what I'm doing. I imagine I'm supposed to be doing this portal quest next. Let's see if we can figure out through the portal. Yeah, that's probably what we're supposed to be doing. So it's been 2, maybe 3 weeks since I last played, because I got then 2 free games, one of which is not patched yet to even support ray tracing, but the other was Control, and Control did launch with ray tracing, and since it's a brand new game, it does make some sense to try and have a live stream coverage of new games to see if that would get me more views, and it kind of does, it kind of doesn't. Frankly, my channel is so not pushed, and in fairness, pretty much all small-time gaming channels are not promoted or pushed in a fair way by YouTube, that I don't know if anything ever would get me enough subscribers or enough views to counteract whatever the algorithm is doing to limit my recommendations, which, like, I don't think it's 100% personal, but it is personally certainly against gaming channels, and this is what basically all YouTubers complain about nonstop, so it's annoying and not something to really go into too much. Control was fine, a good 7.5 style game, but frankly I think they spent too much time trying to get the ray tracing, lighting, graphics effects to show off that stuff, that they didn't bother to do regular lighting. So there are parts where that are incredibly dark, and there are parts that are
you have gained fame.
That are totally boring. The gameplay mechanic itself and Control is really just random small collection of enemies that you shoot in third-person shooting over and over again. It also had a major difficulty spike in the final boss. Even though Torchlight is a top-down Diablo-esque clone, it by far is a better designed game as far as variety and replayability. I could actually see myself playing Torchlight a second or third time when it originally came out, whereas nowadays that would not be something I would be willing to do. Okay, we are looking for increased barter, which would require level 22. So what is my character's level even? Character sheet. We are at level 21. So there's no reason to purchase that point right now. We'll just hold on to it. I, in the meantime, also looked at Diablo 2, and I do feel like Torchlight 1, well, I looked at Diablo 2 and Diablo 3, and I feel like Torchlight 1 does a slight improvement of Diablo 1, if I'm remembering things right, which I very possibly am not, and then goes in a weird, more convoluted pattern as far as the amount of armor and variety of armor that's available compared to Diablo 2. And I don't think Diablo 3 even gets as far as the Torchlight one does. And frankly, I think that's for the better. I think there's too much variety of enemies. Not of enemies, there's plenty. A good variety of enemies is a hard thing to overwhelm a player with. There's too much variety of items. So when we look at this, you have a weapon with a second loadout and a left and right hand. 4 spells. You have a gauntlet, chestplate, belt, boots, head, soft head helmet, and then hard helmet, and then 2 rings and a necklace. Whereas I don't think that there really is a belt, and I don't think that there's gauntlets, and I don't think there's a soft head helmet in Diablo 2. And I think you are better because of that, quite frankly, because there's just a lot of garbage that we run into. Now, the one thing that Torchlight does that's interesting is that in Diablo, and a piece of armor would take up several squares to indicate it's a larger item, but it doesn't it doesn't do anything that would counterbalance that. So even though one item like this takes less space, there was considerably more space in Diablo 2 than there is in this game, and that includes when you calculate what the dog's inventory. Oops, I clicked the wrong button. I'm having to remind myself what these buttons are. Interesting that you can send your pet to the storefront and he'll come back with nothing whatsoever. It's weird these gates exist. I'm fairly certain it's designed just to stop enemies from wandering too far. We can see while we're holding our own, also in this portal, these guys are strong, to say the least, but my armor seems to have gotten relatively corrected because I haven't had to use any potions. I don't know where we really are in the main story, but it's undoubtedly we're just... I think we got the 3 keys to get down to a lower area, and that was the last we had done. So, yeah. I guess the good news is now that I have all of Control played and recorded, right in the middle of the fight, it pops up that element and pauses again. That's an interesting choice. I think that there were, and I think most people would agree, that there were major mistakes made with Diablo 3 in the way things were balanced, but I would argue that I suspect Diablo 3 is even better than Torchlight 1. The question that is behind my mind here is, what will Torchlight 2 really give us? Because as far as the Torchlight series is concerned, I think they're working on making an MMO or some other game that's not even from the original team or developers, if I was to guess, and they're trying to sell it to more of an Asian market instead of making a Torchlight 3. Now, the question, I guess, would be, and I really don't know anything about this, so C and I, this. Alright. barter we want to go up, and that was the only thing we had at point 4. Meanwhile, increase the damage I'm doing or increase the defense. I think I'm still trying to increase the defense. I don't think there's ever need really to increase the strength or the magic. So, yeah. The amount of damage your armor absorbs. Alright. Next one would need level 23, so we are probably needing to put one in Pet Master E2. Yeah, it's a weird question, really. Do we need more Diablo-esque games? Because we barely really needed Diablo 3 a decade later. Like, I'm fairly certain it was at least 10 years between Diablo 2 and Diablo 3. These styles of games aren't in vogue. They've lost their appeal. No longer do games need to be these randomly generated functions or games. We want more story-based linear elements. Control, for example, takes completely place in a building that is 3 large floors of the building that are all hand generated, and if there were randomly generated areas with randomly spawning enemies, and that would not really have made the game much better. It certainly would have made the game look nicer. It's really hard to have something randomly generated and look very good, just to the fact that you might have one connecting section that is just tonally disconnected from the next section. You see that with like Doom 2016 too, and Snap Map is like anything randomly generated or generated by anyone who isn't the best at their level design skills. You're gonna have disconnected areas. Or Mario Maker is a great example of that too. I think Super Mario Maker 1 and 2 are prime examples of how much effort and skill was used to make the good levels of Super Mario Bros. 1, 2, and 3 and Super Mario Land, versus giving the ability for people to try to copy that and finding that 99% of anything that tries to copy that concept does so poorly at best. So yeah, I just don't think people have time in their lives. We are definitely in a different position with PC gaming. Like, remember, Diablo 1 in particular would have been the original Battle.net interface and software system connecting Blizzard games together, which would be the original Blizzard and not Activision Blizzard that exists now and is currently falling apart. There really was no Steam. There really was no large amount of support for PC games. There really wasn't a lot of console games coming to Steam. Remember, like, still to this day, we really have had no Nintendo games from any generation actually legitimately come to PC. We've got another named character. But the fact that I can just stand next to him and he's hitting me and nothing's happening is surprising to say the least. And I'm trying to use up the fish I see, so so I haven't even done that. Alright. Identify this one, identify this one, and then we'll start going. Alright. This armor isn't enchanted enough or really high enough to make me want to get rid of what I've got. So we'll sell that. Same is true for that. Same is true for that. And that. Although we should look at what this does. Increase magic find. Yeah, alright. Identify scrolls, might as well drop them at this point. They are useless. And then we've just got a bunch of weapons here that aren't going to be as good as what we have, although we are potentially getting down to a point where we might want to think about changing some things. And I have 7 giant health potions, which makes me wonder if we either are crafted those giant health potions for some reason and are now, or whether we're picking up giant health potions. It might be that I've just leveled up to the point where that is the current level of things. I wish these bodies would despawn. There could easily be items I'm missing. There could easily be items I'm not picking up. So let's just move forward. So yeah, back in the day when you bought something like Doom and then were sharing floppy disk copies of new Doom files, Doom mods, around, or when you would buy a game like Diablo 1 and that was the one CD-ROM game you were going to get per year, so it needed to really last, things were incredibly different in PC gaming. There really wasn't a rental service, I think, in most people's areas to rent CDs or video games. I don't think you could do that legally. Whereas the Nintendo console games and such came to an agreement, or just couldn't do anything to stop them from renting cartridge-based games. So there was more of that. So games had to last a lot longer. Now we have Steam, where personally in my Steam I am overwhelmed, frankly, with over, it's either 1,000 or 3,000 games. Not that all of those are good games or games that I particularly would want to play at one point, but just seeing that number, just knowing I have that library, that opportunity, tells me that I don't really have to play a game beyond my level of engagement or entertainment with that game. So if, for instance, in Torchlight we were to not take these side portal missions that are handed to us and just do this straight story mode, I think I'd be okay with that. I also would probably be perfectly happy with there being a shorter experience in the main story in general. There's nothing amazingly annoying in what we're doing. It's just a lot of clicking. It's mostly, my problem here is the lack of controller support. I definitely could play this game a lot longer if this had controller support of anything that would be slightly reasonable. And the fact that it doesn't, again, points to this being a 10-year-old game. It's also weird to say that really nothing has replaced Torchlight. I think if you've played Diablo, the way this has to boil down is if you haven't played Diablo, play Diablo. Of course, that is much more of a important cultural touchstone, if nothing else. Diablo 1. If you haven't played Diablo 2, play Diablo 2. I think that's probably an important cultural touchstone also. Do you need to really play Diablo 3? Maybe, but I can't really guarantee that to be a true statement. If you liked Diablo 1 and Diablo 2 and want just a slightly different experience, then
my inventory is full.
Perhaps at that point you would need to consider playing Torchlight 1 and Torchlight 2. But I don't know if they need to make a Diablo 4. I don't know if they really need to make a oops. I think that was equipped. Let's see. So we have a gun that I lost my weapon. Oh, I gotta be really careful here. Okay, transmuter gloves, unique gloves. This needs to be equipped because it increases pet minion armor, increases experience gain. So these gloves need to be held on to. This weapon is not the weapon we're going to use. That isn't going to be what we 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 use. And the scale tie helmet is not something that I want to use because it doesn't increase our gold fight. Now before I do anything else, I need that twin shaft crossbow. And since we were able to clear out our inventory a little bit, we can run around and make sure we pick up any items on the ground. I think I got it. Alright. Yes, this is the item we were using. And we somehow dropped that. Alright. We have an identify scroll, which I'm not going to send. Instead, I'm going to send that. And yeah, I think that's good enough to just send the dog.
Your pet has departed.
Meanwhile, I'm just going to look at everything and move things around. Increase magic find or increase gold find, and increase all fire damage. Got a lot of things that are increasing dexterity. I'm not sure if I really need to increase dexterity or not, or how much damage that's really doing. Alright. I could see making a mobile game like this. So that was $12,073. That's not a lot of money. But I think that's kind of how this boils down in this game. It keeps the currency down to the single penny, where so many other games will go in increments of 10 minimum. Okay, so this does go in circles. It's just kind of a wide circle. Yeah, I could see a mobile game where this just played itself, or you just clicked in an area. Effectively, we've seen simplified versions of these games in a lot of low-effort developments. A dungeon crawler, where you're constantly moving from one fight to the next fight, is just a turn-based version of a Diablo-esque game, particularly if it has RPG elements, and which I would hope that a dungeon crawler would have RPG elements. I'm not really sure what the dog is doing. What is his spell? Summon archers, draining touch. I thought I wanted the dog to do heal all, but I guess I haven't picked up a heal all ability. Playing this on a Switch would probably drain your batteries kind of too fast too. That's an interesting problem you would have uniquely to a portable system like the Switch or a cell phone game, is that it would just go on forever, and then I
can't carry anymore.
And then that would be your next big problem. Alright. Don't need this. Don't want this. Don't want that. Gorgon boots versus what we have, which are just 12 boots. Trying to wear a full set is getting more and more dangerous and difficult each time. So here we have a slow attack speed two-handed bow that would do potentially 80 more damage. Or we have a berserker spike, which is part of another set, and so if it's part of a set, I want to hold on to it. And we're getting more gems, which is nice. Yeah, so sitting in front of a console, I don't think I'd want to play this game as long as this game actually is. Sitting on a cell phone, if you to make it portable and then something that just went on forever, I think I'd kind of get bored pretty fast. I don't really think that there's a way to play these types of games, unless you have nostalgia for these types of games, and then you have to carefully migrate that nostalgia and build up the desire to play something like this once, I would say, every 10 years or so. So undoubtedly we will see a Diablo 4, but Diablo 3's attempts to make people play more did not work, and when you had all the power and might of Activision and Blizzard in there trying to add microtransactions, trying to make more grinding a thing, and that's really what this all boils down to, is this is a grind game, and grind games kind of don't work anymore. So what do you do with something like Diablo or Torchlight? You turn it into, I think, something closer to a single player story experience.
Your pet is fleeing.
Tip, your pet is fleeing, will no longer attack. Your pet health will slowly recover automatically, but you may heal your pet by dragging a potion to the pet's bowl icon in the top left or holding shift while clicking on it. So this is the first instance of our pet getting hurt, I suppose. Oh, I'm about to die too. Alright, so inventory, shift, click. That did not work. Shift. Drink. Did that work? No. While we're here, we might as well just look at the inventory items that we have, and probably wouldn't be too bad of an idea to send him to a store and let him gain more health during that process. So we've hit that level now where
I can't do that.
we've really hit the level where it makes very little sense to have the pet, because the pet has now become this creature that I have to micromanage and take care of. And what was it about that specific fight that overwhelmed us so much? Was it, are these guys getting harder or stronger, or did we just run directly into a fight that we shouldn't have run into? We may have run into a guy that did particularly large amounts of damage, or we ran into a poison section. I'm a little surprised that there is a second floor here, and it'll be interesting to see if this is just a boss fight, because we've already fought like 2 famed creatures in this area. I suspect this is probably just a boss fight. This looks exactly like the last one of these we did.
I'm wounded.
Eating up the fish just to get rid of it, but it's probably not the smartest move. Yeah, it definitely does feel like we have done basically the same area on the second floor before, which this probably is some kind of hard-coded section. I don't even know where
I can't carry anymore.
the dog is. Like,
I'm
okay.
overburdened.
Apparently, the dog did come back at some point. No, we didn't send him to the storefront. Alright. So
Your
send
pet
him.
has departed.
Look at this. And look at this. And we're getting now Superman at potions. So we're not even at the great health potion element anymore. We have moved quite far ahead. And the inability to do anything with this stuff sucks so much, that the fact that there isn't a transmute spell and that you just get through the progress of the game is kind of ridiculous. And identify scroll is absolute last thing you want. Let's see. Did I fail to pick up anything over here while we waste our time? Is the identify scroll really the only object? Right.
Your pet has returned.
So now give them that. Alright. This, what I have equipped right now is 3% gold find versus 1% increased experience. I think experience is better, so I'm gonna equip this. If I do that right, how do we right click? that. So that's not specifically the best trade in the world, but that will work. And we've got a little bit more fish we're trying to get rid of, and a little bit more everything else. Yeah, the lightning resistance, I think, is something that I probably should start looking into. If I could get more armors that had more elemental resistance, I think I could take a lot more damage. But particularly in this game, I don't think that ever happens. I think you are always at the mercy of being hit very hard with any kind of elemental effects. I'm noticing as soon as I get hit by these cobwebs that I'm getting slowed down, and we've got like 2 named creatures fighting me at the same time, and this is not turning out well because of that. Meanwhile, the dog's draining effect is doing minimal amounts of damage. So a heal all would be useful. Is there anything in these areas that I failed to pick up? I guess I'm still one-shotting enemies. So
My pack is full. My pack is
all right.
full.
Rune of the Storm. Inventory. More of this. Okay. So we have a 240 bow. We don't need that. We don't need that. This is a 16 armor versus a 13 armor, but it doesn't increase experience. Get rid of identify scrolls. We have a ring that's socketed. Frankly, you would be in a very crazy point that you would actually want to put things in sockets or in rings. That really is a new game plus, if not a new game plus, the 3rd, 4th time you've played the game type mechanic. Mechanics that quite frankly are outdated. In a weird way, I play this game on my cell phone called Destiny Child, which is I'm not going to dance around it, a game that is designed to sell itself on gacha mechanics where you just are paying to win if you want to get everything, but I don't do that because I'm not that rich, although it would be nice to be for many reasons, but also it is, I'm gonna go up 5 on strength just to see if that increased the resistance any. I think it did. No, it didn't. Like, resistances don't seem like they're affected by any of these points. So either I want to increase my damage some more, or just go a little bit higher on strength just for safety's sake. We have probably some dexterity that we would need to do too. So what if we were to do 1 here, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 here, and do that several levels? I think that would work pretty well. And talk to this guy. The Rune of Storm was right where the book was, said it wasn't. Here's your share. So we got some more fame. Yay for that. And it's now time to play some menu hero. Alright. So the Berserk Spike would be a one-handed thing that would require a lot more strength. So this really is an item that frankly I would need to put somewhere else. This nose wiper system. Let's see. Why do I have this copper ring? Am I putting things in the pet inventory? Yes, I am. Alright. I was trying to put things in the other inventory, but I guess what I need to do is put it up here. Yeah, that's where this is. So we're looking for different abilities that would line up with different things. And I imagine that means things like this should be down here, and things like this should be down here. This gun can just be sold. This ring is gold find versus experience, so we'll have to sell that. Alright, now, meanwhile, running back over here, we have Dull Flow Ember. 2 Dull Flow Embers, which can be transmuted. We have a Cracked Fire Ember, which can be mixed together and maybe merged with that. We have, let's see, giant health potions. We're starting to pick up more of these, and I think we'll just sell this potion because it's of such little interest. And where are we with these? And then we have a Cracked Pure Ember, Dull Pure Ember, Cracked Pure Ember. There we go. Transmute.
Oh, hello.
Transmute.
Smiles on you.
And then transmute.
Is kind to 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 you.
And then transmute.
Smiles.
That gets rid of all of those levels of health.
Smiles on you.
And
Fortune smiles on you.
we'll just
Fortune is
keep
kind to
doing
you.
this until we get rid of
Smiles on you.
at least one
Fortune is kind.
pile of this.
Fortune smiles on you.
Frankly,
Fortune
it
smiles.
wouldn't even be a problem to have only 17 of these.
Smiles on you.
Same with this.
Fortune smiles.
Like we kind of don't need that extra element. Let's see. Cracked and discolored, that's wrong. Cracked and cracked
Fortune
gives us a dull fire. So those can't be merged.
Fortune smiles.
It gives us a discolored, cracked, and cracked. And this rich buckled helmet needs to be sold.
Fortune smiles on you.
Dull and dull. Transmute this.
Fortune smiles on you.
Take care now.
Okay. So, this goes here, and then these stack there, and that stacks there. I'll just sell that and sell that. And that's kind of where we are right now with the healing potions. I'm going to sell this and this, and then I'm going to take this fire one and this fire one, and this pure one. And then this flow one. And keep everything here as much as we can deal with it. So last time we sold things, we got about 1,200 gold. So what if I sell this and this? That's a little bit. I could try to scale armor and try to enchant it multiple times, but I wouldn't want to really do that. What I would need to do is find something like this scale tie that's a little bit more armor and try and enchant that multiple times. I don't think we're ready to try some of these things. This is doing 250 damage. I need to look at my character sheet and see what the maximum amount of damage is that I could do, because it might be that my weapon is too weak and that's limiting the amount of damage I can do, or there might be the fact that the exact opposite. It might be that my extra dexterity is doing more damage than what the weapon normally could do. Alright, so what has she got? As far as purchases, epic copper ring, heal self 3, charm 4, cracked flow ember. That's cheap enough to buy, certainly. Lucky epic copper ring, map scrolls. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything new. And I don't think I would find anything that would be a set item. That's where we're trying to go with this. Yeah, I think we actually just sold all that items. How much gold did that get me? Didn't seem like a lot. And here we have cracked flow ember, which, yeah, that really wasn't anything.
Oh, hello.
He's just got his potions, so he's not selling anything of use. And we're really spending a lot of time here playing shopping. I don't know how you can get around that too. This is something that, as I was discussing Destiny Child, this is something that does not happen in Destiny Child, is you don't get a lot of different items you can purchase. You get items and you can upgrade the items to a max level, but that's kind of it. It's pretty simplified, and there's I think something to be said about having a more simplified experience versus having a random generator that just generates loot like crazy. The one best comparison to Destiny Child, the thing that brings me back every day to it so far. This is a rare helmet. Alright, but it would require strength. I have to purchase it anyways, though. At least I want to. How much was that? Probably 1,000, 2,000. Is the fact that they're a daily quest, that they didn't, I think, really integrate anything successful as far as a daily quest into Diablo 3. Nothing that would really make me want to come back and play every day. The fact that the Destiny Child constantly has new elements. Of course, it does run into that problem that it is showing anime girls who often have large cleavage, so it's not super kid-friendly. In fact, I would say, without crossing the line into straight nudity, the global version in particular, if you don't use the uncensored patch, is still coming very close to the line of good taste, or what many parents would find acceptable. So I want to look at this item that we just purchased. This would require strength 22, and it would give me a major increase in armor, but it wouldn't give me any experience gain, so I could see the Dragon Slayer armor set, if it all could be found,
Anything you need.
turning out to be really useful. So that the only store left would be,
Hey,
do I want to try to get something that would do a lot more damage, that is randomized, or what? Rings to increase experience gain, helmet. Yeah, I could see shoulder armor being useful to replace, and that would be about it. Like shoulder armor. So we have a berserk cord equipped. Says set to berserk gear. How much would this cost? No, that's what I have, is the berserk cord. This is just question marks. I'm looking at the wrong things. This menu system is a mess. We want shoulder armor. Dragon scale unique shoulder armor. Let's see. Increase all fire damage resistance by 8. Faster cast speed, bonus critical things. Health stone per hit. There's no way I can get around that. That was a good upgrade by far. Major increase in stats, and we'll see. The only other thing I could do is spend another 2,000 and try to find some other shoulder armor, or see if maybe I could get a helmet improvement. Otherwise, I'm looking for weapon improvements. These gloves, I guess we could try and get improvements on the gloves, and there is certainly, I guess, an argument to start replacing some of this other stuff. What would be something that doesn't increase our experience? The belt? Alright, so let's see what the belt would do. A 12 belt, that's no use. buy another belt. A tin belt that's no use. Let's go to the top. I don't think I'm buying the top tier belt. May have made a mistake there. An 8 belt. I forget what I was even using all my money with for before at this point, though. That's the weird part of this, is that it feels like I should have been saving my money for something, and I'll save the rest of this, but I'm not so sure.
Anything you need.
So, dragon scale armor, chance to disenchant this seems at 2%, where this would be like, that's super dangerous though. If I was going to enchant something, why not enchant a ring? The rings, but I can't really get rid of anything at all. So yeah, there's very little I could do. Alright, so if we look at our inventory and character sheet, right now we're at resistance of 41, 47, 82, 81, and we've got dexterity up to 323, where this does 250 base, but it seems like we can do less by far. And this is the amount we absorb, which is 54, 143 damage to 284. When we take that off and put that on, we can see our resistance went down, the amount of damage we've absorbed went down. So yeah, we've got a way better improvement there.
What can I do for you?
So let's sell this for 59 and sell this for 94 and 74, and we definitely spent a lot more money than that to purchase this.
See ya.
So it seems like all your money really is going to be spent on gambling in this game. Right click this, left click and select health, and left click and select mana, because we have things there equipped to that spells that won't even do anything. And where are we on our quests? Primal Caverns. We're trying to find a elemental energy item, I believe. And then floor 18, where we've actually moved incredibly slow. We do have one piece of equipment that is supposedly supposed to increase our fishing ability. So what have we got? Catch. Nothing. There's a fish behind there, so it looked like I had caught a fish. With a mouse, though, there's no system here at all. So we caught a batfish. A batfish transforms into a Varkalorn for 120 seconds. That doesn't seem like much of a difference for any other kind of fish. And it might have been an interesting system if fish was on its own inventory. And if there was a way to cut up a fish, and if you fed it whole to the dog, he would transform, but if you fed it in part to, if you cut it up, you could use it as health. if that was the only element that was going to be used on health, for health, and they got rid of the mana and health concepts, or mana and health potions, or made them very late game, that would have been an interesting change, to say the least. Our barter abilities seem like they're helping a little bit, but not by much, and frankly our ability to purchase things are questionable. Let's see. We are at level 23, so at level 24 we can get this barter, and then at level 25 we can start getting treasure hunter, and getting treasure jumps is way more useful. 3% increase in gold find, 3% in magic find is way more useful. At a certain point, once all of those are maximized, I don't really know what we're going to look for. Summon a beam golem might be the next thing. Our pet, even if we get it up to rank 10 on its abilities, seems to still be very capable of not being useful. Let's see. Increase the level of all magic spells that you cast. I don't even cast magic spells that often. So let's just kind of run in here and see where we are months later. It's been a slow episode, to say the least. We're at floor 17, and the game has saved items that were dropped weeks ago. But yeah, I should have been able to get through 2 quests in this recording, and I failed to do that, so apologies for that. And as I'm warming back up, this is kind of a great example of just how this game really is only playable if you consistently play it, and if you fall out of attention, I won't even say fall out of love with Torchlight. If you just lose attention for a couple of weeks, you're going to come back and you're basically starting from scratch as far as your clicking ability and just knowing what's going on, because what's going on is always so generic and what you're doing is always so generic. This really is an idle game by modern standards. It's a mind-numbing game. I recall watching somebody play Diablo 2 while supposedly working at a Radio Shack about a decade or 2 ago, and he was just doing it on the company computer. The reason being that so few people came into a Radio Shack and there was so little actual work to do that you could just play video games and get away with it. And of course that eventually led to Radio Shacks mostly going out of business or completely going bankrupt, and maybe a few reopening under a different leadership. I could see kids playing something like Torchlight to Diablo in school if you were allowed to, but frankly, I don't think that works. It does kind of have that Minecraft mentality in which you could play Minecraft forever if you want to, but even Minecraft has creativity and building and updates, and it's much more a games as a service concept compared to what Diablo-esque games are, which are not games as services that get updates or new quests. I suppose a comparison might be something like Destiny, but even Destiny 1 and 2 haven't succeeded as well as they would have liked them to. I just don't think gamers have this much time in their life. Anyways, we've been going an hour. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wish list. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.